Welcome back to Bon Voyage Besties, your go-to podcast for all things travel, friendship, and unforgettable adventures. Me and Rosa have a really good episode for you all today, especially because summer's knocking. We're all going on our summer vacations, and you want to be sure that you pack appropriately. But this episode really encompasses things that you want to bring on any trip. These are all the essentials that we bring, no matter what time of year that we're traveling. So whether you're going to a tropical paradise, taking a road trip, going solo through Europe, these are items you need to have with you at all times. It'll just make your life a million times easier. So grab your suitcase and let's get into it.
Is my least favorite part of travel.
I hate it. I hate it. So confession, guys, I will pack the night before. I always put it off to the last minute. And then my suitcase sits in the hallway. I'll take the clothes out, but it just sits there till the next trip because I can't even be bothered to put the suitcase back.
Yeah, my suitcase is always ready. So I have like two suitcases that I normally use. I have like my hard case, and then I have a softer case that I use like more like local trips. And same thing, I have those like ready to go. I have like pajamas, I have my slippers and my toiletries. So literally, if you tell me let's go tomorrow, I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go. It's right there. Yeah, I was going to ask you, are you team suitcase or team backpack?
So I am team carry-on, although I still tend to overpack. I am that person that I'm squeezing, like I have to sit on my suitcase to close it. So I always bring my suitcase with me. I wish I could just pack in a backpack, but that's just not my style.
Yeah, I used to be able to do that. I was team backpack in my 20s, and I never realized quite how heavy the backpack was. I couldn't do it now. And I did a trip, this was years ago, around Europe for 7.5 weeks, all in a backpack. I did my laundry in the sink, that kind of vibe. But apparently my backpack, when I brought it back, was horrific. And the smell, you could just not get it out. Like my mom washed it multiple times. And one day my bag just disappeared. And this was right around Christmas. And a new suitcase appeared under the Christmas tree. And she was like, "You're taking this from now on," because my backpack was such a disaster. It like reeked. So now,
like very subtle.
I know. Now I'm team suitcase. I try to be team carry on, but sometimes I end up buying too much stuff, which seems to be like my vibe in general these days.
Yeah, I'm always afraid that my luggage is going to get lost. So, and plus I don't like waiting at baggage claim and all that crazy stuff. So I tend to be just straight carry on. There are circumstances that I'll, have to do like a check-in if I'm traveling somewhere. I think we did like our trip to Greece. We were going to be there for a longer period of time. So I didn't want to bring travel size items. So our sunscreen was larger size and things like that. So I had to check in our luggage. So for certain circumstances, then I'll do a check-in, but I try to be carry on. But I am totally a last minute packer. And one thing I used to do, I don't do that anymore, but I feel like I should because I'm getting older and like forgetful, is having a packing checklist. I used to have my little checklist, like my notes on my phone of like things to make sure that I'm packing. That way, especially if you're traveling, let's say to Europe or a different country, one of the things that you're probably going to need is a charger to charge your electronic device. And also in Europe, they use a different voltage than the US and in some other countries as well. So let's say if you're bringing your straightening iron, do not plug in your straightening iron. If you're like on a resort in Ibiza, you're probably going to burn the fuse and burn your irons. Making sure you have a charger that it has the multi convertible options for all different types of plugs, the European plug, and maybe like a converter too, so it can switch off on the voltage. So that would be like my number one tip, is making sure that you invest in a high quality one too.
Yeah, definitely invest in those ahead of time, because believe it or not, there was one time I forgot to bring one and needed an extra one, and I could not find the converters in Newark Airport for the life of me. They just like
they're
were
expensive.
not. They're expensive,
And they're like expensive but cheap. So it's like you're not really getting your money's worth.
No, and then I always like lose them. Now, if you're lucky and you're staying at a big hotel, they may have extra converters behind the front desk that people have forgotten. This actually happened to me in Switzerland. I had like the wrong kind of converter, but they did have a spare one, which was like really, really lucky. And then I gave it back at the end of my stay. But you can't always like bank on that. And it's not really the hotel's responsibility to bail you out. And I do know that a lot of places now, they they do have USB outlets that you can plug things in, but this is far from universal. You'd see them at like new properties, but if you're staying at like say a cute bed and breakfast, they're just like not going to have it. So it's always important to have those converters ahead of time, and you don't want your hair dryer blowing up. So always be very mindful of the voltage wherever you go.
Yeah.
We don't want to be causing
True
a fire.
story.
Oh, I know. I've had outlets spark at me before. Like such a stupid thing to do, but
Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah, it's not fun. We were staying like in an apartment style. We didn't burn the hotel down, however, we were staying in an apartment
hey, we're
style
ready for a good
in
story. I'm like, what hotel
Ibiza.
did you burn down? I'm here for it. Tell me.
No. And then I'm like straightening my hair and I'm like, what is that burning smell? And then all of a sudden the fuse was like poof and then like shut everything down in the apartment. And needless to say, my straightening iron went in the trash because I messed it up and it smelled a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh. But everything was fine. So, making sure that you're investing in a high quality travel portable charger. Another little tidbit, if you do forget your converter and you're traveling overseas, one little hack that I recently found because I forgot my converter and I was only going to be at this destination for like 2 days, so I didn't want to buy one. On the TV, it had like the USB port. So I used the TV to charge my phone.
Oh my God, that's a great idea. I love that. Absolutely love it. You
That's a
got to
little
do
hack.
it. Yeah, you have to do what you have to do. And when it comes to electronics, especially, it's really important because we do rely so much on our electronics these days for everything, whether it's the app to check into the airport, whether it's our tickets to attractions. Like, we really do have everything on our phones. And I mean, it's convenient, but it's also kind of terrible. I'm sort of like down in the dumps about technology lately. I don't know if it's just AI that's getting to me or what, but I'm just kind of like, why do we use these for so much? But it's the reality. So the other thing you want to make sure that you have is a portable charger, because especially if your phone is older and can't hold the battery so well, if you're taking pictures and you're taking videos, you're walking around using Google Maps everywhere, that battery is going to drain. So it's always really important to have that portable charger with you so you could keep your device charged at all times. I actually have two that I rotate through, but I may actually need to get another one because I recently got a new phone and it takes a different like charger. So make sure that you do that, because the last thing you need is to be out in the streets of Athens or Paris and you're getting ready to go to a cool attraction and your phone dies and you can't get to your tickets. That would be a major bummer. So always have those portable chargers with you. Again, you can find them at the airport, but sometimes it's just very, very expensive. Like, you want to avoid buying these things at the airport, which is why we're doing this episode. You want to have them ahead of time because in a pinch, if it's an emergency, airport's fine, but you just don't want to have to pay like double the price for some of this stuff. You'd rather spend that money on a nice cocktail at a bar in Athens or something. You don't want to be spending it at Newark Airport.
Exactly, not on a portable charger. And again, that's definitely one of the things that I highly suggest. Just doing your research and just maybe spending a little bit more, but getting something that's higher quality because you're going to be using that on your phone, especially if you're traveling to a destination where it's going to be like super cold or the temperature is going to be hot. Your phone might overheat, or when it's really cold out, the battery might drain a little bit faster. So you want something that's a little heavy duty. We're doing a mother-daughter trip to Iceland, Samantha and I, in the middle of June, which I'm super excited for. However, we are not going to have any outlets when we're staying in the campsite. So I'm like, okay, I have 5 portable chargers. So I'm like, I have one that's like very heavy duty and that can probably charge my phone easily, like give me 3 full charge. So that's going to be my main device. And then I'll have like my smaller, because I'm also going to be doing a lot of content creation while I'm there. So I know my battery life is not going to last me very long. So
Yeah, you really need that stuff when you're off the grid, especially. And speaking of Iceland, so I went the first time it was in the winter, it was for New Year's Eve, and I didn't have a portable charger. Well, guess what, folks? I went out for drinks with the tour group that I did snorkeling with. I didn't like know anybody at all. So I really like hit it off with some people in the group, and the tour guide emailed me later, basically like, we're not supposed to do this, but we shared your information with other people. in the group and we're all going out for drinks. So feel free to join us. And one of those friends I met that night is actually a really good friend of mine now and is meeting us in Greece later this summer. So it's really cool. But anyway, I go out. It's cold. I don't have a portable charger. The girl and I at the hostel, we stay out extra late with the tour guide who turned out to be kind of strange. I'm not going to get into it on this episode, but my phone died because it was cold and snowy and I had zero charge and we were running around Reykjavik at 3 in the morning and we didn't know where to go. And I guess it must have been loud because this woman came out of her house like, hey, ladies, there's a snowstorm coming in and you want to get inside soon. But we had no idea where we were because
My
our
gosh.
devices were dead. So don't do that. Word of advice, just don't do it. It's not a good idea.
I mean, it sounds like a fun night though.
It was pretty fun. That whole trip, I mean, that's one that's going behind the Patreon wall if I ever talk about that trip. But it was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable. It would have been a lot better with my phone charge because we were getting so frustrated. We were just like going around in circles. It was cold. The snow was coming in. Like the fact that like some woman came outside and like warned us, like, hey, you need
It's
to
like,
get
come on.
inside. Like now, yeah, I'm sure she was probably annoyed. Like, what are these girls doing at 3 a.m. being loud? Like, yeah, it was just not ideal with extreme weather, especially make sure that like you're protecting your phone. And also if you're doing any activities like by the beach or if you're in Iceland, like going into some of the hot springs and you want to bring your phone with you, get pictures, make sure that you have a waterproof cover too, because you don't want your phone to be getting damaged because it's expensive. You don't want to have to repair it, especially if it's a new phone.
Exactly. And then also too from a safety perspective, you want to make sure that you are charged, especially if you're exploring a new destination, if you're lost or if you need to call like a taxi. So I want to make sure that you are fully charged at all times or as best as possible. So having a portable charger is definitely key and something that either has like the wireless charging or obviously one of the ones that I personally like to use when I travel are the ones that have the wireless charger, but they also have the USB-C and USB-A. So that way I can charge any one of my devices from them and I don't have to carry a wire plus a portable charger. So that just makes it a little bit more efficient when packing as well.
Yeah, multi-use is always a good thing, especially like if you have more than one device. You just want to make your like lives easier, basically. Travel it's stressful anyway, so anything that you can bring that will make your lives easier is 100% worth it. So with packing, much like my life, I have a hard time staying organized. Something that I recommend you do is invest in packing cubes. Now, I know they don't always work for everybody, but they're pretty good at keeping like your clothing organized so you're not opening up your suitcase and then you just have a complete mess on your hands. I still struggle with this, especially at the end of the trip. Like I can never pack as well going home as I can
It
going to
never
the destination.
works. It's like the
It
weirdest
never works. I've
thing.
had to sit on that stupid suitcase more times
I
than I can
blame it. I'm
count.
like, it's probably the sweat and the dirt or something that
Something or all the crap that I buy. I mean, it could be that too.
I was like, I don't know what it is that our clothes expand when we travel.
Oh, yeah, like I remember when I was in France, my friend and I, we ended up buying all this champagne, and I had 3 champagne bottles in my carry-on, and I'm like, why isn't this closing? I don't understand what I did. It's like, girl, you're loaded up with champagne. That's why your suitcase won't close. So packing cubes are really good at keeping your stuff organized because you don't want to be wasting time digging around finding clothes. It also helps with keeping your dirty clothes and clean clothes separate. And you can buy them for a reasonable price pretty much anywhere. So they're a good thing to get before you leave, especially if you're going on a longer trip. It's nice to keep your clothes organized that way.
Yeah, no. I started using packing cubes. When I went to Women's Travel Fest, part of our goodie bags, they gave us the Compass Rose like packing cubes, and ever since then I've been obsessed. But like you said, it's great, especially if you're traveling to like a destination and like maybe you're going from like let's say the beach and you're going into the city. It's nice to kind of keep things separate so you know, okay, this is going to be for this leg of the trip. So you're staying a little bit more organized. And one of the things that I like to do also with my packing cubes, I like to put 2 dryer sheets, especially if I'm going somewhere where I'm going to be like a little bit more active and sweaty and I'm not going to be doing laundry. So at least like my clothes don't smell when I come back home. And then I just take my packing cube, unzip it, and throw it right into the wash. So it's also really easy when coming back home and trying to get yourself organized.
Yeah, because you don't realize it. Like your clothes start to stink. I notice it when I come home and I'm like, I was walking around smelling like this. Like this is horrible. So bringing that little dryer sheet's a good idea. I'm going to do that when we go to Greece because I want to smell pretty. And it is true, especially if you're sweating a lot or if your clothes are damp, they can start smelling rank really fast if you're not careful.
So I was like, I feel like it took a turn, but yes.
So it took a turn. We're talking about packing, and I'm talking about getting lost in Iceland, smelling god awful. I don't know, guys. You're probably like, why am I listening to these girls?
It's important to pack efficiently. And one of the things too, I mean, like I mentioned before, I tend to sometimes overpack and jam pack. But one of the things I try to be strategic with are my toiletries, especially if you're traveling. I'm going to say Europe for the most part. It tends to be a little bit more strict, especially if you're traveling in between countries. So, like, I think when we were going right in Greece, actually, we were flying from Athens to Mykonos, and they ended up throwing out some of the toiletries that my friend packed because it didn't meet the size restriction. So making sure that you are looking at the regulations. Typically, it's what, 3.4 ounces, but in some countries they're a little bit more strict, and it has to be 3 ounces. And don't think that if, let's say, the container's 5 ounces and you might just have like less than half left, you're like, okay, maybe that's 2.5. Doesn't matter. If they see that it says 5 ounces on the label, more often than not, they're probably just going to throw it out. So save yourself the time and the energy. And I know a lot of countries too in Europe, from my personal experience, you have to have everything in small see-through Ziploc bags. So just kind of doing that. So that way, when you're going through the airport, you just take out your toiletries, just have it accessible. So normally that I'll try to put like on my bag, and I won't put it inside my carry-on. So that way I can just take it out of my bag and just place it in the bin when going through security to make it a little bit
Yeah.
more easier.
Yeah, definitely. I always will have that clear see through bag right on top of my day bag so I can easily take it out. But it is true. You can buy in the US a see through bag that's TSA approved, but just know like TSA, it's not universal. Obviously, it's just for the United States. So some countries can be stricter. This actually happened to me in Montreal. Now, I'm not knocking Quebec. I love Montreal, love Quebec City, I love going to Canada, but it's the only airport where I actually had to throw stuff out because it didn't meet the liquid requirements. And the girl was super nice about it. So I ended up getting rid of, I had extra purple shampoo in one of those like little silicone bottles. I ended up dumping that. And she was like apologetic, but it wasn't a big deal. But just like be mindful. You don't want to be throwing product out if it's expensive. Like, luckily for me, it was shampoo. It wasn't that bad. But yeah, always double check the requirements ahead of time because they'll make you throw it out. And then that's kind of that. So don't be bringing $90 foundation.
Don't do it. And like I said, just thinking like, oh, okay, well, I'm halfway through. It's under the requirement. Sometimes they really don't care. So just being mindful of that. And I know for myself, a lot of hotels, they'll have like body wash, shampoo, conditioner, lotion. So I try not to pack certain things. So like I'm okay using whatever shampoo or conditioner the hotel has or body wash. But some of the essentials that I definitely have to make sure I'm packing, like my toothpaste, deodorant, those are things that are very specific. I use very specific brands. So I make sure that I pack those with me because I don't want to just end up in a new destination and now have to go out and buy basic toiletries. And like Rachel said, you can probably find a lot of these things at the airport or a local convenience store, but it might not necessarily be the specific brands or have the ingredients that you're normally used to. So just kind of making sure that you're packing some of those essentials. And there's certain things that you can do without, which is fine.
Yeah, know what your priorities are. So, like for me with my hair, I have very thick hair. So, I have a specific conditioner that I use. So, for that, I'll obviously bring and make sure that I have it. But if it's shampoo, the shampoo matters a little like less. So, I'll be like, well, I'm fine without this. So, just like knowing what you can like live with and what you like can't live without, prioritize those things that you can't live without because more likely than not, they'll have it there. But again, if you're used to specific ingredients or like say with your skincare routine, if you have sensitive skin, you want to make sure that, you're taking care of that too and making room for the right things to bring with you.
Yeah. And one of the things that I personally do because I do travel often, I have 2 toiletry kits, and one of them, it's like a smaller toiletry, and it just has very basic essentials that I'll use if I'm going. Like, I went to New York City this week, so I grabbed that, and it already has like trial size of the deodorant that I use, toothpaste, all of those things. I have a toothbrush as well, and then I have a larger toiletry bag with like soap, shaving cream, like a razor, those things. So when I am traveling, I don't necessarily have to worry too much, and I'll just go through it and just kind of see if I finish a certain product, what I have to restock. So that way it's just easier, and like last minute, I don't have to gather all my things. So it just makes it a little bit convenient. So if you are a frequent traveler, and also as a content creator, I get some pretty cool like PR gifts, which is awesome. So normally I try to save all those like little toiletries, and I'll just throw everything in there and use those up whenever I'm traveling somewhere.
That's a smart idea. So if you like shopping, say, for makeup at Sephora and you get like all those little free samples, save the free samples, take those with you. That's a good way to go about it for sure. And then when you're actually on the ground traveling, I know in our summer episode we talked about this. It's very important to stay hydrated and to stay healthy. So you could always bring with you a reusable water bottle. And it's nice when it's the collapsible water bottle just because it saves space in your luggage. Like if it's a real big, like heavy Stanley cup, you probably don't want to bring that. It'd be kind of like a pain to be lugging around. But if it's a real lightweight collapsible water bottle, definitely take that with you so you stay hydrated. I think Europe in particular, they have lots of public drinking fountains where you can refill your water. Obviously, if you're going to a different destination, make sure that you're able to drink the water because there's some places that you may go to where the water is not drinkable. So that's something you always need to like check in advance. But if you're going to Europe, Canada, Japan, Australia, definitely have that collapsible water bottle with you because it's also good for the environment. And we're already being not so nice with that with the plane rides that we take. So any little steps that you can take are really beneficial for that.
Exactly, trying to be as sustainable as possible. And also, too, you want to be careful when you're traveling, right? So, like, if you're going overseas and you're bringing your credit card or you're bringing cash, you're obviously traveling with sensitive travel documents like your passport. You want to make sure that you're keeping these things accessible. So, I actually have a passport case and it has like little slots. So, on there, I keep like my global entry card. And normally, I keep like one credit card on there that I'm going to be using for the trip. So that way, if I do need to pay for something quick, I don't have to go through my bag and try to find that. It's like right there. So that way, I can avoid misplacing things. And then when I get to my destination, making sure that I'm putting anything of value inside the safe. But one of the things that I personally also like to pack is a block, just in case if for whatever reason the safe is not working, or maybe the hotel room doesn't have a safe, I'll put all of my secure documents inside my luggage and I'll lock it up. That way I know things are safe and secure.
Definitely. And if you're younger and listening to us and you're doing that big backpacking trip through Europe and you're staying in hostels, it's even more important that you bring a lock because if you're sharing, a dorm room with 8 other people, like normally when I stayed in hostels, the people were very trustworthy, very nice. It was almost like a little community, but like you can't get a written guarantee of that when you go into the hostel. So make sure that you have a lock and you're able to secure your stuff because you never know. Like some people may not be so trustworthy and try to rummage through your stuff. So having that lock with you is very important. And then what I do, and I think I may have mentioned this on the solo travel safety episode, I'm not sure, is I always keep one spare credit card in the locker just in case I lose it or it gets like stolen or something. It's always really important to have a backup. And Rose, I'm curious about this because you mentioned the passport because I do this. When you go on an international trip, do you literally check to make sure your passport's with you like 10 times?
I am that person. Like, I'll look and I'm like, okay, I'll put it in my bag. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And normally, like, whenever we travel as a family, I have my passport. Michael has his, Samantha has hers. And I'm like, you guys are responsible for your own passports. So before we leave the house, I'm like, everybody has their passport? They're like, yes. I'm like, can you double check? I'm like, I have to physically see it.
Check literally every 15 minutes. I'm like a crazy person. And then you know where else I'm bad with this is I will put my passport in my backpack that I take on the plane with me. And if I put it under the seat, I find myself checking a million times like, is it there? Is it there? It's crazy. And I feel like I've seen a lot of reels about this. And I feel like so many people do it. I'm just so scared of losing my
Yeah.
passport.
No,
It's such
I
a true
get
thing.
I get paranoid. And then after they show me their passport and we're in the car driving to the airport. I'm like, everybody have their passport. They're like, we just showed it to you 2 seconds
I'm
ago.
so bad with
I'm
that.
always so paranoid. I always also travel with like a crossbody. I don't like putting my passport like in my backpack. I'm always like afraid that I'm gonna be like looking for something and it's gonna fall out.
Yeah.
So normally what I do, I have a crossbody that I'll bring with me, something small, and on there I just keep like hand sanitizer, my chapstick, my passport, and again I normally have the one credit card that I'll put on there. So like I'll know I'll use that if we're getting something at the airport, if I have to use it for any reason, I have it accessible. And then if I am bringing cash, I'll usually put a portion of it there. So again, it's just accessible. And the rest I usually carry like a smaller wallet with my other credit card and other cash. But at least that way I kind of have it easy and accessible. And I know I'm only gonna go into my crossbody, like if I have to get my passport and nothing else, because I get super duper paranoid.
Yeah, and I love a crossbody bag because it's like more difficult to like yank away if you're worried about, say, pickpockets or a grab theft or something. They're a
I
lot more
won't take mine
secure.
off.
Yeah, and you know what else you mentioned
Not
that's
even the bathroom.
it's just there.
Like
It's just
strapped in.
permanently sealed to your body. But another item you mentioned that I think is like very underrated, but you need to bring with you is chapstick. Like when this was years ago, I went to Paris and I was an idiot and I did not bring chapstick. And my lips, when I say they were so chapped and raw, because I went in the fall, it was like really rainy, raw weather, my lips were like destroyed. And I remember going into Printemps because I wanted to get my mom a gift. And I walked by the Chanel counter and the woman was like beautiful. She could have been a model. She takes one look at me. She like grabs me, sits me down, and starts slathering my lips with balm and moisturizer. And she's just like, "What happened to you?" So, guys, bring chapstick. The airplane dries you out so bad. So, always have chapstick with you. Do not be me and walk into a beautiful French department store with like
Chapped lips.
chapped lips because some model's going to grab you. Well, that may not be so bad.
It kind of sounds ideal.
Ideal situation. I'm going to stop talking.
But no, chapstick is a must. I always make sure, and if I have a jacket, like a denim jacket, what I like to do on the one pocket, I'll put my chapstick, and on the other pocket, I'll put like my headphones or something like that. So again, it's like easy access. I know where everything is because I also get kind of anxious when I'm in the airport. So that's always my biggest fear that I'm gonna be looking for something, and in the process, I'm gonna drop my passport or like my credit card. And I've been there where I've been late and almost missed my flight, and in the hustle of everything, I left my driver's license in the bin. And thankfully, I was traveling domestic in Puerto Rico and I was freaking out because I was like, how the hell am I going to get back home? Like, I don't have any other method of identification on me. It was over like a holiday weekend. So I'm calling Michael when I finally noticed what had happened. And he's like, yeah, I can mail it to you, but it's not going to get there till, Tuesday. And I needed to fly out that Monday. So I was like, well, I'm just going to risk it. I'm going to just show up at the airport and let's see if I go home or not. And I made it. So that was fine. It wasn't as intense as I thought it was going to be, but this was also like in 2018. So I don't know how things would be if I forgot my license. They'll probably leave me in Puerto Rico.
I forget my passport over in Greece. They'll be like, well, you're staying in Greece now. I'll be like, that's fine.
That's okay.
I'll stay here. No worries.
Yeah, so making sure you have things accessible because sometimes traveling it could be a little bit stressful, especially like if you're in an airport that you might not know. Maybe you have a layover, or maybe like your terminal it's like on one side and you have to get far to go to your gate or whatever the situation is. So you just want to make sure you have things that are convenient and accessible. So that way it's just like a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of like easy and accessible, have clothing that it just goes with everything. Something like lightweight, something that you can layer, something that packs well. If you can like roll it up without it getting wrinkled, that's always like great too to save space in your luggage. But just like having colors that kind of go with every palette that you can layer. And of course, obviously, how you're going to pack for a tropical weekend in Puerto Rico is going to be different than how you pack for a winter getaway in Iceland. We know there's differences. We'll have more details about that in another episode. We could go on forever about our favorite brands when it comes to like what to wear with travel, but just have clothes that go with everything. Don't be bringing clothing that's not practical because you're going to be walking a lot, and that goes double and triple for your shoes because
Yeah.
you do not want to be walking around with blisters. It is horrible.
Especially not at the airport. So it's so funny. So I remember going to Dominican Republic and I was seeing see the women like all dressed up and like they would be wearing heels and they have their luggage and their kids and this and that. And I'm like, how are you even surviving this flight? You're like running around in heels. I tell like my mom all the time, like, whenever you travel, please be comfortable. I also want to be cute, but for me, when I'm traveling, I'm always comfortable. I'm wearing probably sneakers that I can easily like slip off as well. And one of the things, especially if I'm doing like a long haul flight, I like to wear compression socks. And I usually have like joggers and make sure that it's not something that is too tight on me. I try before I used to always wear leggings when I was traveling, and I actually stopped because with the spandex, sometimes after a while, it would just feel too tight. And I'm like, no, I need some wiggle room.
This is kind of gross. So, if you do not like stories that involve vomit, I suggest skipping this part of the podcast episode. But I wore leggings on my flight back from London to Newark, and we were sitting on the tarmac for a while, and it was really hot. And just like the compression of the leggings, I think it gave me indigestion or something because I spent half of that flight just puking my guts up. And it was like the worst thing ever. Definitely wear comfortable clothes. And also, you do not need to look like Victoria Beckham on the plane. Like, it just, nobody cares. Just wear whatever's comfortable. And then, yeah, don't be like me wearing leggings. It was horrible. Like, that's a different story for a different day. But the flight attendants were nice enough to keep a bathroom just for me for the
That's
first
sweet.
4 hours. And then the very next day, I had to go to soccer practice and I was all jet lagged and sore and whatnot. And I told, the kids I had a rough flight and they were like, why are you even here? Like, how are you walking
No.
around?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I always say that I always want to be comfortable when I'm traveling, but with the yoga pants specifically, I was like, oh, this is nice and it's more relaxed. But sometimes too, the material, it can restrict some of your blood flow as well. So making sure you're wearing things that are a little bit more breathable, that has a little bit more flexibility, especially if you are traveling on a longer haul flight. You want to be as comfortable as possible. And I always like to pack a denim jacket or a light sweater because sometimes it's like hit or miss. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes there's like flights where they crank up the AC and it's freaking cold. I have to cuddle with the blanket. And there's just flights that I'm like sweating and I'm like, what is going on? So, just kind of making sure you're dressing for the destination. But if you know that you tend to get cold, bring like a light jacket or like one, you can do like a cute little cardigan or like a scarf or something. So it's something, if you're not really going to be using it, at least you have that. So if it does get cold on the flight, you have something.
Yeah, because it's true with the airplane, you never know what you're going to get. Is it going to be like super hot or super cold? And then the compression socks, to go back to that, they're especially important on long flights because, I mean, this is not a fun topic, but blood clots on long flights are a very real thing. I know someone who this has happened to, which is really scary. And if you're a woman and you're on birth control, the risks of blood clots are even higher. So just make sure that you have those compression socks because it does reduce your risk of those blood clots, and make sure that you're getting up and down enough and that you're moving because it can also, like, in addition to the comfort, be an actual safety issue.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're safe. And that brings me to my next thing is making sure that you are packing some of the essentials. So like obviously if you are taking any type of control prescription, medication or something like that, one, make sure you do your research that the destination that you're going to, that it is acceptable for you to bring medications or if you have to bring proper paperwork or something like that. Because there are some countries, I know like for instance, Japan, there's certain medications that, we take back here in the States that in Japan is more of a controlled substance and can be deemed illegal. So you just want to make sure that you are looking at entry requirements for the destination that you're traveling to. Even if you're having a short layover and you have to go through security, you want to make sure that you're being mindful, but making sure that you're packing any medication that you need and maybe even anything that's over the counter. I know when we went, I think it was to Thailand. I forget exactly where we were going, but Samantha wasn't feeling well. And for me to find over the counter cough medicine, it was a whole hassle. One, I didn't know the language. So I just had to like go to the pharmacy and just hope whatever they were going to give me was equivalent to what I normally would give her back home. So it was a little scary because I didn't know how she was going to react to the medication. So just making sure, especially if you're traveling with younger kids, like bringing like Tylenol or anything over the counter that you think you're gonna need, it's definitely essential. And one of the things I never leave my home without is like Benadryl and Imodium ID because you never know you're gonna have an upset stomach, especially on a flight. Like
Yeah, it's
not to
so
be
true.
graphic.
It's so true, guys. Like, not to be gross, traveler's diarrhea is a thing.
Like Pepto-Bismol sponsor our episode,
It's a
please.
thing. It's awful. It's a thing. Just make sure that you have the appropriate medication because you don't want to be miserable. I know it's not fun to talk about, but better safe than sorry. And then, like the Benadryl, I always make sure I have that with me. I have to be a little bit better about actually having it in my purse, though. Like, I'll bring Benadryl with me, then leave it in my hotel room. And it's like, that's not
Yeah, no, I always leave
helpful.
one. I've always have one in my purse. So I always make sure that that's something I always bring because I never know. Like I'm always afraid that I'm gonna have like a allergic reaction to something. So at least I know with Benadryl it'll kick in and I'll feel fine more often than not. Because yeah, having food poisoning, especially when you're traveling, it is not fun. And again, when you're traveling, especially out of the country, a lot of the brands that we use, for instance, here in the US, you're not going to necessarily find in pharmacies overseas. Although I have to say, with a lot of the pharmacies, from my personal experience, when I've had to go somewhere like in Europe or Asia, they're usually pretty good with giving
Yeah.
you good medication and you don't need a prescription for a lot of the things, which is pretty good. And it's a little bit better than just like your over the counter items that you would normally buy back home. So I feel like the pharmaceutical scenario it's a little bit better, but it can also be a little nerve wracking when you're trying something for the first time when you're in a different country.
Yeah, I've definitely had that experience in Europe where I'll go to the pharmacy because I'm not feeling well. And the pharmacists are always great and they're able to like find what you need right away. And I do find like some of the medication can be a little stronger than the OS. Like I remember my first solo trip to Scotland, I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing and I twisted my ankle and I ended up limping to a pharmacy and the guy was super helpful and he gave me this medication. He is just like, don't pair this with anything else and just take one. And then the next day it was like my ankle was fine. I don't know what it was he gave me, but it
Magic.
was amazing.
Yeah, and making sure you're following the instruction. If they say do not consume with alcohol, do not
No,
consume with
don't
alcohol.
do it. Don't do it.
Don't risk it. Do not
Don't do
risk it,
anything
kids.
silly. Don't be silly. And again, with the requirements in different countries, just make sure your medication is legal. We talked about Japan, for example, but there's many countries where something could be a controlled substance. So going back to the whole thing of comfort, something that I never go to the airport without are my noise canceling headphones because I don't know how you do a long flight without headphones. And I'm not buying those at the airport. It'd be way too expensive.
I always bring my noise canceling as well. And I also like to pack smaller headphones because I feel after a while they kind of get a little bit heavy and tight for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I always make sure that I bring very cheap and expensive pair of headphones that I can plug in case I want to watch a movie that are more like earbuds and not necessarily the larger ones. So that could be something also to pack if you're going like on a longer trip, if you want to watch a movie and you don't want to necessarily have to use your personal device. And for us as women, making sure that you are packing feminine products because I've been to destinations where they're like, yeah, no, we don't have this. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Or they're just like different and not I'm not gonna name the destination because I don't want to be upsetting anyone, but it was just like not what I was used to. And luckily it was on the flight home
Yeah.
because if I had a whole week, I would have been a spoiled brat about it. So, but that was on me. Like I should have brought them with me from home. So if you're used to certain products, make sure you have them with you because depending on where you go, it might be different. And I think this came up in Robin's episode with like kids, the diapers can be different too. So diapers, if you're traveling with small children, bring them from home because it's not that the quality may be bad, but it might just be very different than what you're used to. And it will just make your life easier if you bring it from home.
Yeah, and I know, yeah, she also talked about also bringing things that are comforting to the your child. So like maybe if they have like a blanket or maybe like a small teddy bear or something like that, that can be comforting for them and like kind of ease them, especially like on a longer plane ride. That could be something also pretty useful if you're traveling with smaller children. And another one thing that I do want to mention, going back to like the feminine care, it's also too, I'm in a relationship, but like we have a lot of our listeners who are solo travelers. Maybe they're single. They want to have fun. They want to be adventurous. Like, yes, but
Be
please be
safe.
safe.
Be safe. Be
So
safe.
sometimes
Don't come back with a baby or an STD.
yeah. So sometimes you have to be prepared because again, you never know. You would think that these are things that are common and that you're gonna find like everywhere, but you'd be surprised. So it's
You'd be
like
so yeah,
be
you'd be
prepared, be
surprised.
safe.
Just be safe. be safe. And
And
then
even if you're
two,
in a relationship, be safe too.
yeah. And then, goes back to the whole medicine thing. If you're on birth control, and let's say you're on the pill or something, some countries they may not have that. So just make sure you're bringing your supplies with you from home. And yeah, be safe because depending on the country, they may not have it.
And then just to go completely off track, because why not go off the rails real quick?
We're tired. We're gonna go off
Yeah.
the rails. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
It's after 9 p.m. So I have a portable tripod that I like to carry. And I was traveling one time and they're like, oh, make sure you take out your electronics, whatever. And I forgot to take out my tripod. So the gentleman runs my luggage through the camera.
No,
And all you see is this
no.
like thing. And then he looks at me and looks at the camera. I have no idea what he's seeing, right? Because I'm not thinking about it. He looks at me, sees the camera, and all of a sudden I see like my luggage like pass by. And I'm like, oh, great. What did I see in my luggage? And I forgot that I had my tripod. And I'm trying to think like maybe I had like toiletry that was larger size, whatever. So the other gentleman opens up my luggage, all of a sudden goes through my stuff, holds it out. He's like, it's just a tripod.
Oh my God. You have to admit, though, you probably made that guy's day because it's probably a boring job and it's probably
Yeah.
funny as anything.
But my tripod, it's like portable, but it's still like a decent size. It has to be like probably like 12, 12 inches, maybe more. I'm sure the guy was probably thinking like, look at
What's
you.
going
Like
on?
he looked at me, was like, you small little thing. Okay.
My God, that is
Back to the
hilarious.
PG
That
version of
is
the episode.
hilarious. That is so funny, though.
So,
My
so
gosh.
if you're packing a tripod or other things, like
Honestly,
maybe checking your luggage.
and check your luggage and also check that everything's legal to bring. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's so true. So on a different topic, but still important, especially if you're staying in a hostel and you want to protect your ears as well. Bring earplugs because snoring is not fun. And then even if you're staying in a hotel, I'm kind of used to street noise because I live in a city and I'm on the first floor. So I'm used to hustle and bustle. But if you're not and your room's kind of facing a loud street, especially on a Friday or Saturday, it's always beneficial to have earplugs so you can get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I'm usually pretty good with noise. However, I do have in my bedroom at home like blackout shades. So I do like it to be pitch black. So one thing I usually pack, and sometimes I don't end up using it, but I always like having it just in case, are eye mask, just in
Mm.
case it's like a little bit more bright. I can just have that, turn it, put it on and not have to worry about it being too bright in the
I
room,
have like
especially if I'm
10 of
trying to
those
sleep.
in Iceland.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to sleep in a little bit and not have to worry about all the outdoor light coming into the room.
An eye mask is really good. When I did that 2-week camping trip in Canada where I was just in a tent for 2 weeks, I needed that eye mask and I needed those earplugs. And it was the same with this press trip to Sweden. We went to this little island in the Baltics and I'm not sure where it was, but I was in sleeping in some lighthouse and I don't know where it was and it was cold. And I was just wrapped up in this blanket and I had my little eye mask and my earplugs and just my little beauty routine. But it was interesting. There was no running water. I don't think there was a bathroom anywhere. You had to find an outhouse or something. It was interesting.
Sounds exciting.
And we've had interesting experiences, you
Yeah.
guys. Just be prepared for anything because travel looks glamorous, but sometimes depending on the itinerary, you can rough it quite a bit. Those creature comforts from home can go a long way.
And one of my biggest packing fails, I would say, is forgetting to pack underwears. That happened to me. I think we were in California. It was somewhere in the US. And, I was packing. I typically wait to the last minute as well to pack everything. So I'm going through my list of everything that I have to pack. So, underwears are a common thing to pack, obviously. But I guess I didn't think about it. And in the rush of everything, I packed. And I remember getting to the hotel and I'm packing my luggage. And I'm like, wait a minute, where are my underwears? So I completely forgot to pack my underwear. So we had to go to the mall so I can buy underwears. So it's either 0 to 100 because there's times that I'm packing 20 underwears for a 2-day trip.
But yes, I'll always bring at least two extra pairs. And the time in Madrid, I was glad I did because we were stuck there for 3 days thanks to United Airlines, which, sorry, United, love you, sponsor me.
So making sure you're packing underwears and socks. These are things that you think are common sense, but believe me, even for myself, an avid traveler, I have fails all the time where I'm constantly forgetting something. So if you're like me, maybe you should have a checklist so that way you can kind of stay organized and make sure that you are bringing with you all of the essentials that you need to pack.
Yeah, definitely have that checklist ready to go. And also, these are essential essentials that you need for any trip. But if you're doing like a trip that's unique, make sure that you have the proper equipment for it. Probably my biggest packing fail was again that 2 week trip in Canada. I didn't bring a headlamp with me. And that first night at the campsite in Banff, I was looking for the bathroom, wandering around in the pitch black, and I had no idea where I was. And there was a couple somewhere having some kind of domestic dispute. Like I was hearing like yelling somewhere in one of the tents, and I had no idea where I was. And finally, one of the guys on the group, he like found me and he had his headlamp and he was like, "You really should have packed a headlamp." So the next day I went and bought one. So if it's a trip that requires special equipment, depending on what it is, just bring it from home. Don't be like me running around Banff in the middle of the night without a headlamp. I don't recommend it. There are so many things I don't recommend on this show. People watching this is going to be like, I thought you were an expert. Like, who are you?
Yeah, that's gonna be when we do our travel fails, it's gonna be a fun one.
Guys, get ready. Get ready. That's going to be like a 2 hour special.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That one may have
And
to go behind the paywall.
exactly. And then two other random items too when packing, especially if you're traveling outside of the US. So like I have Verizon is my cell phone provider. Their roaming charge are pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So getting like an eSIM card, I feel like it's a little bit more cost effective and you don't have to necessarily have to worry about asking for the Wi-Fi everywhere you go. So normally depending on where I'm going or how long, I'll buy like a couple of gigs and make sure that I have an eSIM. And obviously I'm try not to be on my phone. So I do kind of enjoy not having access to the internet, but I do like to have some sense of security. So if I do need to pull up tickets or like get directions somewhere, I want to make sure that I'm able to be connected. I know there are other cell phone providers. I think like T-Mobile or something, they might offer a travel plan if you're traveling overseas. So you can always check with your provider, but doing an eSIM is probably a more affordable option than going with the roaming charges or data package from your provider directly.
Yeah, 1000%. Like the roaming charges are super pricey. And then, like, to backpedal a little bit, I'm thinking of your crossbody bag. With the day bag, make sure to have something that's like versatile, comfortable to wear that you can kind of use for everything. I've been pretty lucky, knock on wood, because I'm, doing multiple trips this summer with like pickpockets, because I know you hear that spoken about a lot, especially with cities like Barcelona, for example, comes up a lot in those conversations. You can get some day bags that have like anti theft protection, but I've personally never used one. But if it's something that will bring you an extra peace of mind, go for it. But to reiterate, just bring something that's versatile, that's comfortable to wear, that you'll use every day. You shouldn't have 50 million handbags with you. Like, I love my handbags too, but it's just not practical to bring a whole pile of them with you.
I agree. And like for me also too, like when I travel, I try not to be extra with accessories. I mean, I typically don't wear expensive jewelry
I don't
anyways.
either.
I'm pretty cheap when it comes to that. However, handbags, those are my more up my speed. So again, depending on the destination, I'm a little bit more mindful. Maybe during the day, I'll wear something that's a little bit inexpensive and then maybe like bring out my nice handbag if I'm going out for dinner or something where I'm not spending as much time like in public transportation or walking around because you don't want to draw attention to yourself or
No, of
be a
course not.
victim of someone pickpocketing you. So I try not to be too like flashy whenever I travel somewhere. And I was gonna mention also too, if you are traveling and maybe you're doing like a workation or like remote work, bring you wouldn't think about this, but this actually happened to me. Bring an extension cord. If you know you have to work and you have to dedicate time, because this actually happened. I think it was in Greece when we went to Crete last year. I needed to do some work for my blog and the outlet like it was like behind the thing. So it was like impossible where I had to have my desk. It was like a weird angle in the living room area. And I wish I had like extension cord. That way I could have plugged it in and I can do whatever I needed to do from the comfort of the couch instead of having to like stand up against the wall or have to sit in the bedroom, which I didn't want to do. I specifically had booked like a 2 bedroom with like a kitchenette and like living area because it's like, oh, I can do whatever work I needed to from there. But the outlets were not as accessible as I wanted it to be. So an extension cord if you do have to do some work.
Better safe than sorry. That's what I always say.
I agree.
Like, if it's something that you really need and use every day at home, it's probably a good idea to bring it. And at the same time, if it's something that's kind of like a maybe, like say if you have a dress that you've only worn one time and you never wear it at home, don't bother bringing it with you because you're probably not going to wear it there. And you want to save room in your luggage for souvenirs. Like going back to the pickpocketing thing, I always say if someone takes my debit card and they check my bank account, they're going to be so disappointed. They're going to be like, this is a
They're
waste
like,
of
here you go.
time.
Let's
This
give
is
this
a
back.
waste of time. Nothing but broken dreams and credit card debt.
Sounds like a hit song.
The next thing I do, my next side hustle, you'll see me like performing. Nobody wants that. They'll be running.
We'll have you in Times Square next to the naked cowboy.
Yeah, you may see this podcast on a billboard in Times Square, manifesting it right now.
But that's one of the things, and that's my reasoning. At least that's one of the reasons why I wait until last minute to pack, because sometimes the weather in the destination is unpredictable. Maybe you think it's going to be like sunny the whole time, and now they're saying it's going to rain. It can change. Also, to like my body, let's say if it's that time of the month, I might feel bloated, and maybe something that I thought that I wanted to wear, I don't want to wear that anymore.
Yeah.
So, like one thing that I personally like to do, I always try on my outfits 1 or 2 days before,
Same.
and then I'll pick and choose from like that stockpile, and then I kind of narrow it down from there. But I try everything on because like you said, if you're wearing it at home and you're just like, I don't know about this outfit, most likely you're not going to wear it when you go to your
No.
destination.
Only wear clothes that you feel super comfortable in, that you can walk a lot in. Because, guys, I can be like, kind of a lump at home depending. I'm trying to be better about going to the gym. But when you travel, there are some days where I was clocking 30,000 steps a day. And I'm not a marathon runner. So you are going to be walking. So if it's something that you're not comfortable in and you never wear at home, don't bring it overseas. It's just a waste of time.
I agree. So I feel like we kind of scratched the surface with some of the essential items that you should pack. Is there anything that you have packed that you regret packing?
God, so many. There's been times where I've brought my laptop with me and then have not opened it once. Like for some reason, I don't know what I was thinking. I was trying to do YouTube for a little bit and it really wasn't my thing. Credit to all the YouTubers out there. You're awesome. So I brought my laptop to Japan and I thought I'd use it a lot more. I opened it one time in the whole 3 weeks I was there and I was like, this was stupid to bring. I ended up buying so much crap. I could have used the extra space. I'm like, why did I bring my laptop with me? So that was a bad idea. And then another one, this was recent. This was Quebec City. So if you go to Quebec City in the winter, guys, bring good boots. Don't bring crappy rain boots that are going to give you blisters, because my second day I was limping everywhere and it got so bad I had to go to the shoe store and I was speaking in my horrible French. The woman was so nice though, and I'm like, it's an emergency, my feet hurt, and they're all like blistered up. So I ended up spending $100 on new boots, and then I threw the old ones out in the hotel because they were total trash, and I'm still actually really angry that I did that. But I love my new boots from Canada. They're lovely boots. They're much better made. They're beautiful. It was all worth it. But you can't reiterate it enough. Pack the right shoes, because that'll make or break your vacation. You'll end up like me, limping and practically crying in front of the salesperson, and they'll just take pity on you and you'll spend money that you didn't need to spend. How about you?
I always say comfort over. I mean, I always want to be stylish, but I also want to be comfortable. So like, yeah, for me. So I always say when I'm going on vacation that I want to read more. So I become ambitious and I always pack 2 books. I don't know why. Because
St. Augustine with Book of the Month.
I've been reading the same book, I kid you not, since I think it was like what, 2023.
Still reading the same Book
I'm
of the
still
Month
reading
book?
this. I haven't even finished that because I promised myself that I was going to finish what is it? Little Fires Everywhere. It's a book that I started reading and I said I was going to finish it in my trip to Aruba. That was in March.
We say that I'm going to like read all these books, and I use my Kindle because otherwise I'll bring all these books with me and it'll take up a lot of space. But I feel the same way. Like I'll bring books and then I'll read like one page, if that.
And I won't bring like a small book. I get like crazy and ambitious and I'll bring like a big book. So like again, it's taking up space. I'm not going to read it. So like, why am I packing 2 books when I barely going to open one page of the first one?
This was going to Florida and I was a pretentious college student. Like I majored in English and thought I was so cool. And I brought Charles Dickens' Great Expectations with me through the Atlantic City airport. And I remember TSA actually opened it up because they're like, what is this? And they pull up Great Expectations and they're looking at me, like giving me this look. And the guy was like, you don't want to bring something else to Florida? When I say I didn't read a single like page in Florida, I didn't read a single page. I think I was just trying to look like smart or something. I don't even know. I was a pretentious 20-year-old. Who even knows? I was unbearable at that age, but that's another podcast episode for another day.
Sounds like a fun one. I mean, we have a lot that
They amazing.
I have tons of those. It's like
Oh,
every trip,
I'm
always
gonna take
something.
notes. I'm gonna take notes. Guys, buckle in. That's gonna be a 2-hour special. If you want to see, I know like
We'll have
Rosa
to
and
do
I
like
look
multi-series.
yeah, Rosa and I, we look so polished on social media and all. And we look amazing. We're going to all these destinations. If you want to see us fail spectacularly, log into that episode. You will see like us at our lowest, and it'll be amazing and hilarious.
Yeah, you never wanna see me, like, when I'm on travel mode, like, at the airport, I don't know, I turn into this military style person. I don't even know who I am.
Yeah, see me on an airplane. You just see me curled in a ball thinking it's my death day. And then the
No,
flight attendants have to take care of me and
I'm
the
like a drill
pilots.
sergeant. I'm like, "What do you mean you gotta go to the bathroom? We don't have time for that. Go, go, go."
I just am like so panicky in the airport and I just sit there and I'm like in the zone and today's the day. It's over for me. I'm done.
But it's not. So, we hope you guys took some amazing tips, on what to pack and what not to pack. And if you're gonna bring a tripod with you, just check it in your carry-on. I mean, check it in. Don't bring it in your
Yeah,
carry-on.
put it in your checked bag. Now, like, I want to get a tripod, so now I'm going to make sure that's in my checked bag. I get stopped enough as it is. Like, every time I leave a country to come back to the US, I'm always stopped. It's a guaranteed thing. It's almost a joke at this point. So I know if I brought that, I'd be stopped.
It was, it was a fun adventure, and I was traveling by myself too, so I think that made it even funnier. So that was definitely an experience,
That's
but
incredible.
yeah, so that's a wrap on today's episode of Bon Voyage Besties. So we hope that this packing guide has you feeling a little bit prepared and pumped up for your next adventure. So whether you are going on a little weekend adventure or a long haul trip, we hope that these tips were able to provide you with some insights. Some of the things that we like to bring with us when we go on vacation. So whether you are a chronic overpacker like me or a minimalist, make sure that you're packing smart. So if today's tips helped you out, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, follow us on all social media at Bon Voyage Besties. We have tons of more travel inspiration, packing hacks, and we're also going to have some fun behind the scenes that we're going to be posting on social soon.
Yes. You'll get to see me smack a water bottle.
And on that note, until next time, Bon Voyage
Besties, be
Besties.
good.